It's time to set the record straight. There are new discoveries that will completely cause us to rewrite our history and understanding of science. This is a world of light, sound, and frequency. This is the world of vibration. Today, it's vibrational quantum physics. We will now explain how evolution really works, what gravity is, and how does it work. This information came from a scientific study done by Mauricio Costanzo, who discovered many amazing things about our bodies, photons, and how they really work. With these concepts, we will now explain how time operates and explain time travel realities, as well as how most to all mysteries of the world can be understood. We can show how life is created from what we previously thought was nothing. First, we will explain a new theory of evolution, which I have coined solar evolution. I have left a link in the description for the video I created by that name explaining this. This also will show how to heal some cancers or all cancers based on the study of another scientist, and what the secret is to living a healthy life and not getting sick or getting any diseases or viruses and things like that. All energy that is of value to human beings, and I would say all living things, is solar energy. It is the photons of light or light energy from the sun or sun energy that has the value. I learned this at a young age, but I had picked it up from studying certain Egyptian things, and when reading certain books, I was understanding that they were teaching how we truly get our energy from the sun. This is the core energetic component to everything that we do that requires energy, and I will explain that. Since we don't have the bodies of plants, and we cannot perform photosynthesis like plants, well, what we're actually doing when we eat is we are eating, whether it be vegetables, fruits, or grains that initially got their energy directly from the sun by growing and taking in sun energy through photosynthesis. We are eating those plants and consuming the sun energy that they were able to pick up directly from the sun. When we eat meat, we are eating an animal that either eats plants whom received sun energy through photosynthesis, or we eat animals that eat other animals that eat plants, but the core component here is the sun energy. There may be other ways that the animals may get their sun energy. I do not know, but I'm under the belief that this is how it works. This is where all of our nutrients, our nutrition, and our vitality comes from. And when we are lacking photons in our DNA sequences or between our DNA strands due to certain diets or ingesting certain toxins, we have noticed that that is where cancers begin and how they operate. Simply by enhancing the intake of biophotons and giving that back to the DNA through ingesting it, the cancer will be healed or will directly go away. It is also my belief that this is pretty much how all the sicknesses I think get started, but the only proven one was with cancer. In a study done by Mauricio, he had frog eggs, and they were hermetically sealed, and then he had salamander eggs. Both of them were sitting next to each other in jars. It's simply by shining a light or a laser through the frog eggs and emitting the exact frequency or electromagnetic signature of the frog eggs through this laser, when he was beaming this electromagnetic field on the salamander eggs, within a couple days give or take, the salamander eggs ended up creating or hatching frogs. The same process was done with apricots on an apricot tree. He would beam the apricot tree with the encryption or electromagnetic signature of an apple tree, and within perhaps a week or so the apricots started actually turning into apples. This can be done on living animals as well. We will explain an example of that later. There is a process that takes place within the DNA of these things that are being beamed with the encryption of another, to where the DNA will transform the biological form into the overriding frequency that's being emitted and beamed upon it. And this is not something that takes large amounts of time, and honestly, this is how, in my belief, the med beds are able to rejuvenate limbs, because it is this core concept that can revolutionize everything, if one decides to actually do anything about it. I'm going to reference David Wilcock for one of his shows that helped me to see a piece of this puzzle, and he does speak on the same things, but there is no practicing science that I'm aware of that can heal this way. But it's not because I believe no one has figured it out. It has been figured out. William Rife, another scientist who created the concept of Oregon energy, which is one of the most healing energies out there, had his work suppressed, burned, and he died. He also is curing cancer by beaming frequencies of healed cells over the cancer cells using electromagnetic fields or encryption, the same way as the laser. When he would do this, the cancer would literally dematerialize right out of the person. You just need to know the frequency of what the biological entity's healed form vibrates at, and then you just need to hit whatever part of that body or being that wants to be healed with the frequency of the healed version. And you can literally transform that living entity within 30 minutes to being healed. And I'm using 30 minutes, I believe, as an industry standard based on the medbeds operating that fast to heal those kind of issues. I know this sounds crazy, or not so much crazy, but maybe preposterous or just unbelievable. But the reality is based on these scientific studies that are direct proof. I will give another example. This is very much possible. If we want to move into this new golden age, we need to start changing what we are teaching our youth, and we need to start learning or relearning all things vibrational. Because it is these vibrational mechanics, as well as to learn and understand magnetic and electromagnetic fields, that everything in the universe basically operates off of. I found it funny that the average person, if you go up to them and you ask them what an electromagnetic field is and how it works, I think probably 7 out of 10 will probably not know that answer, maybe more. But I also believe that there's a reason for that, and that has to do with these type of things being suppressed or confiscated under a false guise of security or confidentiality by certain factions of the government. Another example, gamma wave radiation, or you can call it gamma wave light, has the ability to make these transformations as well on physical living biological entities. The same concept was used to where they were changing frogs' eggs into salamanders by emitting gamma wave radiation, or light waves on the frog eggs. Another study by Mauricio, there was a mouse who had broken its leg. He then beamed the mouse with the broken leg with the encryption of a healed mouse's leg, and that leg started healing much faster. It healed much quicker. Now I mention gamma waves because I'm going to mention that currently now, and I find it very interesting that it is not being blasted on the news. It is mentioned, but not blasted, that we have been in one of the largest solar storms known to our current 20th century. We are being blasted with very special light waves, or light radiation, that's non-toxic, and is also not electromagnetic energy, but the intensity of the solar rays. CMEs and flares have caused our planetary Schumann resonance, I believe, to raise its frequency level from 7.83 to something much higher. And I'm talking about record-level vibrations higher on certain days. We are currently being bombarded by solar gamma waves, as well as other light waves, which is actually contributing to an ancient concept that is still understood and practiced consciously today, known as ascension. In this version of ascension, which is usually not understood this way and has never been done before, we are transforming our biological forms, and as well raising our own vibrations and encryptions to a much higher vibration. This is being done naturally through the sun and the solar storms that we have been having. This is basically a massive part or process of ascension, where a solar system upgrades its entire system or evolves it, which is another good word, or accelerates the evolution of all living things on the planet to move on to their next evolutionary path through physical transformation of all things on the planet. Now on our planet, this has been done slowly. Over the past 2 years, we've been bombarded by high-frequency light and gamma waves consistently, which has begun the process of transforming our structures from being carbon-based to crystalline. We're still in the process, but that has been happening. Not to mention as well that these solar rays, storms, and semis have effects on human consciousness. But I just wanted to take a side note to share that this is a part of how the evolutionary process works. Our sun is more than just a burning ball of gas. For starters, everything in this universe is conscious and consciousness. And our sun is a living being. But it holds all these light codes and photonic light to initiate change and evolution in all things on this planet. Whenever it's time for things to move forward in their evolution, whether it be done naturally and slowly through time, as the sun will increase its emissions or simply change its emissions over time, and you'll notice perhaps an evolutionary transformation in certain species over time as well. You will hit these very rare moments that happen in cycles that we call stellar activation cycles. These tend to fall on the same dates and conversions that the Hindus called yugas. So aside from perhaps the sun taking a long time or a short amount of time to evolve a species or a being, it may do that, but it can also do it in an accelerated format when we hit these ascension windows that I call stellar activation cycles. That happen every 5,000 some odd years. This is what the 2012 ruckus was about. This is what the Mayan calendar understood very much and knew in regards to the stellar activation cycles that we are in or getting out of. And it's been known to many different cultures who have knowledge of these cycles in their ancient texts and books that this was happening with our sun. Ascension is as old as time, and every single culture has had an understanding of it. It's just not commonly talked about because it's considered taboo based on the elites wanting to censor that out of our history and understanding. Because then, they wouldn't be able to control us if we had more knowledge on these things. DNA can create life forms out of what we would think is nothing. An example of this is a hermetically sealed jar with some sterilized wet sand. After a while, you will get microbial bacteria and different smaller forms of life bursting from the sand. Now, most people think because it's hermetically sealed that there's no air that flows in and out. And how could these life forms come out of nothing? Well, one of the biggest misunderstandings is that nothing is something that exists. There is no such thing as nothing because everything exists within a medium of energy called ether, which many of our ancestors commonly knew about and practiced their sciences with this information in it. And it was taken off of our science books in the late 1800s. Our entire multiverse is a multiverse of consciousness, where everything is conscious and exists within, and as the ether as well, multidimensionally all the way back to source. Understanding the power of sun energy, or photonic light, or biophotons, or simply understanding how light works could revolutionize and change everything that we experience today in our culture. I'm talking about from healing based on simply being hit by different variations of light and rejuvenating physical structures and forms and parts to understanding more about the component of ether. It is from ether one can truly understand how gravity works, where gravity comes from, and where do the electrons on the atoms come from, and where do they get the energy to spin around the atoms, so to say. The curtain, or people call the veil, is kind of a three-dimensional veil that causes us to not really be able to see or feel or experience the ether to where we can just know that it exists. But I will tell you this, when you are picking up on someone's vibrations, whether they're very angry maybe, and they have a very bad attitude, and then you notice that some of their energy got into your fields, and you're starting to get angry, well, all of that's happening within the ether. When you sense a person's emotional state, and you can feel it, you're feeling the vibrations of the ether, and their personal emissions of vibratory electromagnetic energy coming from their state of being, hitting you and your auric field, and you having the subtle senses to simply feel that because you can sense their vibrations if they're in a bad mood. This all has been proven. I will share references in the description, but more so this is how it is and how it works. Ether can be compared to almost a much less dense form of water, and those who have slight psychic senses or have strong intuition have the ability to feel the vibrations that come through the ethers from other people or things. We will go into ether on the next video, but I just wanted to explain this is how solar evolution works. It probably shouldn't even be called that. It's just called evolution. But I'm terming it that because we've been living with the wrong information. To be continued.